What's up, Blackest fam? I hope all is well in your corner of the world. Man, happy Monday to everyone. Really excited to get into some new music from Akala. Might not be new to you, but it's definitely new to me. I really just found out about this artist. And man, shout out to the subscribers and the comment section because you guys have been really putting me on new artists from Marlon Craft to Aesop Rock to Akala, more intellectual hip hop. And it's awesome for the breakdowns and this things that I love really I didn't even know I love. Actually, a few years ago, I actually was getting kind of turned off by hip hop, right? My taste changed. I was into my mid to upper 30s. I'm 39 right now. And I need substance. I need something more than just, right? That doesn't do it for me anymore. And I used to be a fan of Kanye West, Lil Wayne, Nas, right? J. Cole. I tried to listen to the new Kanye West, Donda 2, and I was just like, what is this? The beat's sick, but there's no substance. There's no lyrics there. So I love that about Akala. The first time I heard that Fire in the Booth, and he's talking about, Mansa Musa, and he's talking about, historical references, political references, talking about knowledge, talking about, it's just more of it almost feels like I'm part of an intellectual conversation. And then, man, the comments that we're getting and people helping me with breakdowns, it's just an intelligent community. And it's like, man, we're building a channel that this is somewhere that I would want to watch, right? Intellectual conversation, no internet thugs and trolls. I'm sure we'll get that if we keep expanding. But, man, it's been going great. We just got started at the start of the year. So we're closing out 2 months and we're already about 630 subscribers. So it's going extremely well, and it's picking up its pace. So, man, if you're here and you're not a subscriber, but you're just here to watch the video, man, if you like it and you want to see others like it, make sure to show some love by subscribing. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. It helps get our music and grow our platform out, so we can share this with the masses. But really excited about this. We're going to get into Akala Fire in the Booth Part 2. Let me make sure I have my glasses for this one. I can't find my black ones. And I'm a thinking cap. All right, we're ready to go. Let's get into this. You guys don't want to look at me. Let's look at Akala. I know you're going to dig this, right?
Dig this.
Oh, yeah. Perfect.
Man, Carter, buddy, you know what time it is when you hear this, right?
Wow. Look how young he looks. I've seen the more recent pictures or videos of him, and it actually looks like... why is it so, it looks like I'm in a rainbow or something. Did I just do something? It's like I cleaned the camera with a piece of bologna and then wiped it up with a pork chop or something, right? It's got like that. What is that? But anyway, I'm not on my main computer. I'm on a Mac here. But I don't know if you guys remember, I was having a lot of issues with the echo. So I actually ordered these. So we got some new Sony Professional headphones. They're supposed to be high-end. They had great reviews. So I'm actually going to bring my setup that I put up in the baby's room, and I'm going to bring it back down to my office. We got some things going on, some improvements. I'm going to soundproof this room. I'm actually building a door, so I got teenagers here that they never know if I'm recording or not. So really some awesome things coming. So again, much love. Appreciate you guys showing us love. Even in the UK, we've been getting a lot of subscribers there. So much love. And man, I love, you guys are going to be really happy about this. I'm actually setting up a phone. I actually have a phone number that's set up for Blackish University, and I'm going to actually have it here. So if you guys want to call, if you guys want to talk some smack, or even just have a good conversation about some of these breakdowns or tips, you guys can actually call in as well. Kind of doing it old school, kind of like an old school radio show. So some really cool stuff coming up here. But let's get into this breakdown. Fire in the Booth, Part 2.
I know you're gonna dig this.
Oh, yeah. Perfect.
Man, Carter, buddy, you know what time it is when you hear this, right?
Let's get ready to rumble.
He's like, come on, bro, let's get to it.
Yo, Akala. Wow. Knowledge is power. Volume 1 mixtape, 28th of May. Listen, AkalaMusic.com. Chase. Tiny bit more vocal, please, actually. Listen, knowledge is power, always. Listen.
The scam, brother, the scam!
Oi, mate, my personal life's great. Some of you would love me more if I rub that in your face, okay?
He said, oi, right? When someone says, oi, mate, all right, they're normally from Australia, right? It's just another way of saying, like, what's up, fam? Or, like, what does he say? Mandem, right? Or brethren. We don't say stuff like that in the U.S., so it sounds weird. I didn't know they say, oi, mate, there. But I guess they do, or maybe he's just referencing it, right?
Well, let us run down the resume.
And if somebody says, oi, mate, it's normally followed up, right? You're trying to get someone's attention, but normally there'll be some sort of instruction, right? At least I've heard it. It was a bit, oi, mate, come over here, right? Or, oi, mate, get out my way, right? And they're just trying to say something there. And man, just a disclaimer in the beginning, my daughter stayed home from school today. She wasn't feeling too good. So if you see her come by, that's her drawing on the chalkboard. We'll let her say hi if she walks up. She likes her dresses. She's very girly. But she also loves, she might want to, you want to say hi, my baby? Oh, there's my little one. That's Bree. You just wave. Okay. And you see the little pictures on the chalkboard and you know where they came from. I do write. I'm actually using that a lot more, and I have some plans for it. Bree Daddy's recording. But yo, let's get into this. This is no, I've already gotten into it. Kids can throw you off your loop, right?
You're not a little chat about Akala's living today.
Maybe Daddy's recording, okay?
Big whip, nice yard, been on breast bait. Some of you would love.
Which is why I'm gonna put the door in. Let's run it back from the top.
Listen.
The scam, brother, the scam!
Oi, mate, my personal life's great. Some of you would love me.
Maybe no, this isn't for your ears, baby. Okay? All right, so we're going to do it again. Take 3, right? Sorry, my little one's here. I didn't want to not record today. I have such a good lineup of not just Akala. We got Marlon Craft. We got Aesop Rock. I got a lot of stuff kind of in queue. But, you know, things happen as a family man. And it's like, yo, get the family first, right?
Me more if I rub that in your face, okay? Well, let us run down the resume. Some of you would love me more if I rub that in your face, okay? Well, let us run down the resume and have a little chat about Akala's living today.
Yeah, he said, you know, he said some of you would love me more if I rubbed it in your face, right? Rubbed what? His personal life, right? People like hearing people are doing good. People are doing good in the world. So he's like, man, maybe if I talk about money, hoes, and rims, I might become more of a mainstream artist, or I might increase my platform. I don't think that's where he really wants to go, but he's playing on that dynamic, right?
Big whip, nice yard, been all over the globe. Look how many continents that I have done. Shows, couple little companies, neat little office, everything.
Yeah, we know this from his Fire in the Booth Part 4, right? He said, yo, I might not have a big chain, but I do got offices with employees in it, right? It's a different type of flex. Like, there's levels to this. You know, he's running legitimate businesses. He's written books. He's talking about plays and spoken word operas, and he's just different, right? He's taking advantage of the platform that he has. And that's really all you can ask for, right? Somebody that wants you know better, do better. And he's definitely showing that.
Everything going swell, little bit of profit, built a business educating kids from the block. So far as I'm concerned, you gotta be a mug to not rate him. Oh my.
You gotta be a mug to not rate him. I happen to know this one, but this is definitely now terminology or slang that we need to use in the U.S. Mug is British slang for a fool, right? Or somebody who'll do anything for you. So he's talking about all the good that he's doing, right? He's saying, I've been around continents, big whip, nice yard. I've been all over the globe, right? Everything's going swell, some profit. I got a business educating kids from the block. But he says, but as far as I'm concerned, you got to be a mug to not rate him. So I mean to not give him his props. Is how I'm reading that.
Own masters, still my own master. Novels.
We went over this before too on his Fire in the Booth Part 4, but what does it mean to own your own masters? It really just means you have the rights to your own music. You can profit from it because it's yours. You own the copyright, right? The right to license it, the right to do what you like with it.
And strips on the way. Rap is just a part of the genius in his head, and he knows it. Dickhead. Since I used to kick ball for West Ham with my big head. Back in school days, wearing hand-me-downs from my sister, and gal was still onto man. Now that's some Ross charisma. It's just a little.
I had to do the same. I got a sister that's 1 year older than me. I'm 39, she's 40. But for years, we were the same height. So my mom was like, I'd be like, Ma, I need some jeans. She'd be like, you better wear your sister's. Right, and my sister stopped growing, so I would have the floods, right? It was back in the 90s, so the Jenko jeans and the wide bottoms. And she is so short, she would step on them, and they'd get all frayed on the bottom, and then she'd give them to me, and that's not where my leg ends, all right? I'm a bigger guy. I'm 6'2" almost. So it's just funny that he says that because it doesn't matter where you are in the world. You could still relate to that if you had sisters and brothers and you were kind of struggling, right, when you were growing up. You might not have known it then, but you were struggling, right? And I love what he says because there was some lingo there, but I think what he said, right, he's like, yo, the girls are still into me, right? That's charisma.
I took my first pull of Rizzla. I knew you onto man. Now that's some Ross charisma. It's just a nipper. I took my first pull of Rizzla. I knew you forget.
Yeah, Rizzla, I've learned about this too, exploring his music. I believe he mentions that in a song. Rizzla, it's a brand of rolling papers or paraphernalia is normally associated with, you could be rolling a cigarette if you're old school, but it's normally you're rolling a joint, right? In the U.S., there's tops. Tops are like the top paper. So somebody might say, yo, you got papers? What are they? Right? Oh, they got some tops? Oh, for sure. Right? Now, it sounds like that's what Rizzla is like out there.
Gave me that, yeah, my bigger sister. So when we speak of struggle, cousin, it's yours. You know the same old madness. Working class poor, yeah. So may have won a couple awards. I guarantee you that my family just as messed up as yours. All the abuse and the alcoholism and drug addiction. Uncles going to prison. This is working class living in Britain.
Oh yeah, I like this. A different type of flow from part 1 or part 4. I love how he's relating it back to his own family, right, and thinking about his own struggles. But yeah, that's something that there's a common language between not just people of color, but people that have experienced the struggle, right? Like I was just talking about, man, I had to wear my sister's jeans too, right? Like we what about sleeping head to toe, right? When you having a sleepover and there's not enough beds and there's boys and girls, my mom, they'd get creative and be like, sleep head to toe. Then you got someone's dirty ass feet right next to your face, and then you just alternate, right? Then you can fit more people on the pull-out bed or whatever that way. But people struggle. Families are the same, right? The same old madness, working class poor. He's like, I won a couple awards. That doesn't mean I'm any different. My family's just as messed up as yours, right? Like me, I'm mixed as well. My mom is black, but my mom's family was on the Cape Verde Islands. Right, they come from the west coast of the west coast of Africa. They call it the Ivory Coast, and I was able to do my ancestry DNA and all that, and I could trace my roots back to Senegal, which I just thought was so interesting. My dad was all Mexican. He originally came from Texas, but I don't really know much about my dad. He wasn't really in my life growing up, and that's the Spanish side of me. I identify mainly as black. But my dad was messed up. My dad used to sell heroin, amongst other things, but he was also a user, and that was unfortunately how he died as well. He died of a heart attack, but his body was just beat to hell. It was narcoleptic, which means he had narcolepsy. He would fall asleep talking to you and just wake up and then pick up the conversation. And this crazy mofo was like, I'm going to get a scooter. I was like, oh my God, let me know what streets you're going to be on so I can avoid those bad boys, right? Last thing we need is just someone they'll wake up and like be doing a wheelie or some shit. But we had a struggle, right? My dad went to jail. He wasn't really in my life. Didn't help raise me. I was raised by an uncle who stepped up and really showed me the ways of the world. But my family's fucked up too, right? My mom and dad didn't work growing up. We were relatively poor until I got older, and my sister and I went to school. My sister's got her associate's, bachelor's, master's, and was in a PhD program. And I only went up to my bachelor's, but I do want to continue taking classes. I'm studying constitutional law now. But these are the things people go through, right? First generation, you're trying to break the seal, pass through the roof, right? Break that glass ceiling. And we all struggle, and it doesn't matter money, it doesn't matter class. If you can trace back that struggle, we all struggle in different ways.
You gotta be kidding. So please don't just as messed up as yours. All the abuse and the alcoholism and drug addiction. Uncles going to prison. This is working class living in Britain. It ain't great. You gotta be kidding. So please don't ever get confused by me spitting. Cause yes, I said the ghetto's in our head, but no, I didn't mean if you live next to a food yard, let that's in your dreams. I meant believing in.
They always say out here, right? You can take the boy out the hood, but you can't take the hood out the boy. You're always gonna have that love for what you remember growing up. But it's also what might motivate you to make change because you remember those struggles, right? There's kids going through that right now, and that we can do something about it. And the question is, what are you doing? How are you using your platform, whatever it might be? Akala's in the booth, and I'm behind a computer screen, but I'm still trying to get this knowledge out to the masses, just like he is, right? And it just, I feel like we need more people that are doing that or having these conversations so that we can talk about change. Because I'll tell you this, no one is going to do it for us.
The madness they spout about us is far more dangerous than putting us in council houses. So yeah, believing in the madness they spout about us is far more dangerous than putting us in council houses. So yeah, I criticize.
See, that's sick. He said he was talking about living next to a food yard. But he said, if you believe the madness that they say about black people, right, about colored people in general, minorities, if you believe them, that's far more dangerous than them putting us in ghettos, right? Because if you think you are a certain type of way, you're going to try to uphold that truth, right? You're going to live that way, right? If people tell you that you're ugly, you're forever going to be a shy or reserved person. But if you grow up thinking that you can do anything, right? You grow up thinking about opportunity, you're more positive. There's a positive outlook on things. But if people tell you look good, you know it. It takes a while for you to build that confidence. And it's very, very dangerous when people try to tell you that you're ghetto, that you don't speak right, that your hair is ugly, your skin color is bad, right? Kind of reminds me of Malcolm X. He did that speech when these people from the civil rights movement, but specifically from the Nation of Islam, were killed. He spoke at this funeral, and he started this piece, and he's, what made you hate yourself, right? Who told you that your hair was nappy and not natural? Why are you washing your skin? I used to have a buddy who used to wash his skin with aloe vera, right? And you'd think he's trying to heal his skin, but he was trying to lighten his skin. They actually have products that do that now, but it's like, bro, don't hate yourself. And I get it. I can say things like that because I can ride the line. And people are always like, man, what do you mix with? You black and white? Black and Mexican? Are you? But I could ride that. I could say, oh, I'm more this, I'm more that. And obviously, I'm not as dark. I'm a yellow dude, right? It doesn't mean I'm any less black, but it does mean that I can. It doesn't affect me as it does other people. That's actually something called colorism. But let's let Akala speak. This isn't for me. We're here to listen to him, right?
But from a place of love, never. I'm more dangerous than putting us in council houses. So yeah, I criticize. But from a place of love, never, ever. Cause I think that I've become above every young bruv you wanna judge as a tug. It's me, man, it's a little guidance and love. So I think that you're the mug. And why be smug when it's...
Yeah, listen to what he say, right? Every young brother that you want to judge and you want to call him a thug, he said, yo, it's me, minus a little guidance and love, right? There was the fork in the road, and I could have went either way. But luckily, I chose the route of education. I picked up a book instead of picking up a gun, right? And I continued on that journey, and I became older, and things changed for me. But people that come from the slum or the ghetto or from the projects or a bad neighborhood, it can really go either direction. You're either going to make it or you're not. And I've noticed it's normally sides of an extreme, right? You think of a bell curve, right? Just shows that the majority of people that come from the hood probably stay in the hood. I don't know, or die within 5 or 10 miles of their home. But there's always outliners, right, on the bell curve. And there's always people that are doing really good and really bad, and most of them are in the middle. You use standard deviation, and you can, right? But what I'm saying is, most people that come from the hood, if they make it, they're not just surviving, they're thriving, right? Because they have something to prove. They know how hard it is in these streets without it. So they're out there trying to chase the dollar, chase the bag, right? And people that are on the other side of the extreme, they're normally defeated by the system.
It's an actual fact. Hey man, it's a little guidance and love, so I think that you're the mug. And why be smug when it's an actual fact? We all commit crime simply by paying tax. Cause we didn't go and tickle them people in Iraq and ask them so politely for all the minerals we extract. We blew children's heads off set.
No, he's speaking too much truth there. But one would argue, and I for sure don't know everything about the war in Iraq, and my argument was the same. 9/11 happened, and 9/11, if you actually look at the identification that they found, which is kind of bullshit to me, right? You're telling me that this place that this plane crashed into this building, and it was so hot, and the fuel burned so intense that it melted the structural beams that made the building collapse. But somehow, identification that was from people that were on the plane was still able to be found, right? And there's a contradiction there, and there's a lot. I can go into 9/11 and some of the things that don't make sense. And we should do a breakdown on that, but I feel like 9/11 has been just so played out, right? But 9/11, most of these dudes, they weren't from Iraq. They were from Saudi Arabia. So why is it that we weren't talking about war in Saudi Arabia, right? No, what did we do? We used the fear, right? Fear and what was going on in the country, and we did what was, and this is U.S. obviously perspective, but we pushed something called the Patriot Act. And if you're not familiar with the Patriot Act, again, I study constitutional law. Constitutional law, you have to know how that affects you in the U.S. You have the protections of the Constitution, right? The protection against unreasonable search and seizure. You have like warrantless searches. The police can't just come to your home and say, "I smell weed," and kick in the door, right? They can't kick in your door. There's no knock warrants, and there's just different things that you need to be aware of. But anyway, I forgot kind of my point. The Patriot Act. But what they did was, in the name of national security, they pushed the Patriot Act, which gives government a lot of freedom to search phone records, search internet records, basically go through information to extract other information and insight as to who you are and what you might be doing. And these are freedoms that the Constitution would have, that were really, it was protecting you against this type of freedom. But anyway, we also went into the war in Iraq. George Bush was the president, and some people argued that he was mad that Saddam tried to kill his dad, George Bush Sr. But why did we invade Iraq? Supposedly they had weapons of mass destruction, right? WMDs. There were never any weapons of mass destruction. A lot of people say, we had a need for their oil. Yeah, most people know that the Middle East is known for their oil. But it wasn't it wasn't quite like that. American companies, they negotiated with rulers in the Middle East to find, obtain, and produce oil. Some of these companies have been purchased back by companies by nations that the U.S. worked with, right? Like in Saudi Arabia, right? We have Saudi Aramco. It was a part of the Standard of California Oil, which became Standard Oil, which was purchased by Exxon. But the Saudi government bought back that piece. So it's not, we don't really have the capability to just steal oil and these oil tankers, and that would be against everything the U.S. stands for. That doesn't mean they're not doing dirt there. It doesn't mean that, they weren't necessarily, like every barrel of oil was paid for, but there are what they call negotiated rates. And you could argue who's getting the better end of the deal. But it's not stealing, it's negotiation. But again, that's my limited knowledge. Obviously, I'm not a member of the government. I don't really know what's going on behind closed doors. But yeah, that's a common topic. When you talk about invading Iraq, they normally talk about, are we extracting oil? Are we looking for natural resources? Are we trying to put our own people in a position so that they have the U.S. interest in mind? Why, right? Who's benefiting from this? But speaking of benefiting, there was a lot of people like Dick Cheney. When you talk about the war on Iraq, a lot of people know Halliburton, right? Halliburton has a very close connection to Dick Cheney. But back in the day when we were looking into things like this, like the war in Iraq, and it was very controversial, we had the presidential election, there was just so much money being given to insiders, political insiders. So Halliburton, they had a division of their company called KBR. I don't know exactly what it stands for, but basically from a period in 2003 to 2006, they were able to get $17 billion in revenue. And this is all revenue that's stemming from the war, right? These are companies that they're in defense, right? They actually manufacture bullets or weapons. So it's just crazy to think about that. There's a massive payoff for people that are doing military bases, oil repairs, infrastructure and rebuilding projects, right? After these nations are war-torn countries, right? So Halliburton's a big one. The other one was DynCorp, right? DynCorp is a subsidiary of, I believe it's the Washington Group, but they do something like they restore and they do like oil-filled restoration stuff. From 2003 to 2006, they got $931 million. And again, these are people that have political connections. There's a lot of companies that are doing work that they know an insider, whether it be in Congress or whatnot, is insider trading, right? Like all war zones eventually become cluttered with ammunition. There's abandoned weapons, right? They airdrop those Hummers. They don't pick them back up. A lot of times they're negotiating with different teams, if you would, to get rid of the military weapons and equipment. Well, there's another company. This is a environmental company. They do cleanup. They did $878 million in 2006 doing ammunition disposal. So there's a lot of money to be made when companies go into war, right? There's a company in the UK, Aegis, in the United Kingdom, and they brought in a contract training private security operations, and the Pentagon is giving them $430 million, right? So there's a lot of big bucks happening all around you. So when you hear there's a war going on, there's a lot of people that are like loving it. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Fire to backs with a Gangsta Nation, get down and you get clapped. So when you see the youth, they're running around on the road with heaters, don't be surprised, they're just copying their leaders. Long as the wars stay in places that are brown and poor, we can all pretend to be abhorred, but we applaud. Fact, we all commit crimes and love, so I think that you're the mug. And why be smug when it's an actual fact? We all commit crime simply by paying tax, cause we didn't go and tickle them people in Iraq and ask them so politely for all the minerals we extract. We blew children's heads off, set fire to backs with a Gangsta Nation, get down and you get clapped. So when you see the youth, they're running around on the road with heaters, don't be surprised, they're just copying their leaders. Long as the wars stay in places that are brown and poor, we can all pretend to be abhorred, but we applaud. If you go up to Knightbridge and get violent, the policeman that dumps you will probably get knighted.
Abhorred, he said abhorred, right? That's like a disgust, right? Hatred. I think he said Knightbridge.
If you go up to Knightbridge and get violent, the policeman that dumps you will probably get knighted.
I learned this from the last one. Well, Knightsbridge, that's a residential and retail district in central London. But Duppies, I was having a problem with the way he was using Duppy, because he was saying Duppies and Duppy. and I believe someone broke it down for me in the comments. I believe it's a ghost, right? Or but the actual act of killing someone and turning them into a ghost. So if he's saying the policeman who duppies you will probably get knighted, he's saying, right, they're going to give an award to somebody that's killing you, right?
Don't wanna fight you cause it ain't cause I'm frightened. I just rather fight with those who really think they're titans. I ain't scared to bleed.
Again, this is something I believe we referenced this in another one of his videos, but listen to what he said, right? He said, it's, if I don't fight you, if I don't want to fight you cause it's not cause I'm frightened, right? I'm not scared of you. I just rather fight those that think that are really doing shit in the world, right? If I'm going to die, it's not going to be shooting you representing my block that I don't even own. It's going to be fighting for my people or fighting for a cause, standing up for what I believe in, right? There was an intro on Fuji's The Score, classic album from the late 90s. And this one dude, he's like, yo, you want to, in an intro, they're like, it was either Praz or, who was that, Wyclef, right? And he's like, yo, you want to impress me? Don't kill somebody that looks like you, right? Kill the dude that turned off my lights. Kill the dude that evicted my grandma. Kill the dude that's being disrespectful to me online. Kill someone from the opposing political party, right? Go after Putin or go after, do something. Don't just kill people that look like you that are in the same struggle as you.
I am scared to breathe in another breath in this world where everything is so uneven. When millions murdered in the Congo when it's barely news. But if
legit millions. Like we almost had 1,000 bodies in the United States. Well, in Chicago, I think it was about 900 bodies last year. In the Congo, if I'm not mistaken, it's been a while since I've checked this fact. But their murder rate was about 5 times the U.S. murder rate. But we don't ever hear about it, right? Why? Why is that?
the footballer's wife should buy a pair of shoes, I'm supposed to give up. Apparently, I do not. The world's reflection of...
You listen to what he said there. I kind of cut it off by pausing, but he said, there's places around the world, right? In Congo, where millions are murdered, and it's not even news. And I was telling you, it's like 5 times the murder rate of what's going on in the States. Hold on, let me put on my daughter's show. I hear that it went off. Just give me a sec here. I gotta wake up the Roku device, and then I have to press OK. So just give me a sec. Oh, there we go. Done. But he said, but I'm supposed to give a shit if some footballer's wife buys a new pair of shoes. It's like this obsession with the Kardashians here in the United States. A lot of people say that's the royal family in the U.S. That's how much people pay attention to her. It's like, what?
Your block, and if you think a world to profit from their death and be totally cool, thinks you're better cause you live here, you're a bloody fool. Look around at genocidal abuse. I swear humanity ain't nothing but a virus with shoes. Then I pick my nephew up.
Bro.
Their death and be totally cool, thinks you're better cause you live here, you're a bloody fool. Look around at genocidal abuse. I swear humanity ain't nothing.
He said genocidal abuse, right? For those that might be younger and don't know, genocide, right? It's the deliberate killing. It's a large number of people from either a particular nation, it could be a particular ethnic group, and they're trying to destroy that nation or group, right? It's called genocide. And it happens more than you would like to think in the world, but unfortunately, it's not something that's front page news. Let's let it ride a little bit here.
But a virus with shoes, then I pick my nephew, look around their death and be totally cool, thinks you're better cause you live here, you're a bloody fool. Look around at genocidal abuse. I swear humanity ain't nothing but a virus with shoes. Then I pick my nephew up from school and I look at the youth.
I had to do a paper on that once at school. And the
and see the love they show each other, and I'm just so confused because they ain't learned.
The name of the paper was Humanity is a Virus. Which is just interesting when you start researching it. Now, if you, I would go further and I would say it's not necessarily a virus. It's probably closer to like a parasite, right? Because if you look at the general characteristics of a parasite, you'll see that they continue to spread. They reproduce very fast, right? They normally take over areas and they destroy all other life. but they also feed on the local environment, or what you might call a host, right? Just like we do all of these things to the earth. Like, are we a parasite that doesn't know we're a parasite, right? Are we a parasite on the earth? Because we have the same characteristics. We do continue to spread and reproduce. That's all we think of, right? We do take over areas. We do destroy all life. We do feed on the local environment or the host, and we do so much that we're going to destroy it. And we do it without a care in the world. And normally a parasite, they have this inherent destructive factor. And one would say that their sole purpose is to destroy. And, this kind of sounds like we're talking about humanity, right? Humanity is like a cancer. We possess all the traits and characteristics of cancer or a parasite or a virus, right? Just think about how cancer grows in the body, right? And humanity spreads and grows on the planet. And cancer is what? Unwanted, hated, despised, spit on, right? So is cancer, so is growing of people, right? Humanity, you can make an argument that we despise ourselves, right? Think about it. What is it? Mass destruction, slaughter, rape, torture, brutality, genocide, right? All these things. So, it's you have to stop and think, are we just trying to destroy and feed off the host? We destroy nature, we destroy animals. It's exactly what a parasite does. So, it could just be a good metaphor, but there is some truth. We have to question our own existence and why we do the things that we do.
Yet what is their race or religion? So we're born unconditioned, but we learn to play our position in the system. Look what that does. Look at the youths and see the love they show each other, and I'm jealous with shoes. Look around the genocidal abuse. I swear humanity ain't nothing but a virus with shoes. Then I pick my nephew up from school, and I look at the youths and see the love they show each other, and I'm just so confused because they ain't learned yet what is their race or religion. So we're born unconditioned, but we learn to play our position in the system. Look what
that is true. My daughter's in kindergarten, and my daughter looks kind of like Moana-ish, right? She's like this brownish Hawaiian, possibly multiracial mix. My daughter's actually mixed with Jamaican, German, Dutch, and then me, Black and Mexican, right? So she's just a variety of things. But she has like this kind of brownish look. You don't really know what's going on, kind of like me. A lot of people are like, "Are you my people?" I'm like, "I don't know. Who are your people?" And it's like Albanians or Indians or Pakistani. But it's never really Mexican, which gets me. It's probably because I'm so tall. But I love what he says, right? Because you could see that in school when they're my daughter's age. They don't care if you're Chinese, black, white. It doesn't matter. In fact, you know what? I should show you this. Do I even have it here? I got to show you guys this. I got to show you guys this because I have these rocks that I keep in my office. And I tell my daughter I'm always thinking about her, right? So we drew these rocks. This is my rock. You see, it's got my beard. It says Dad above it, right? That's my rock. This is my daughter's rock. I don't look racist at a motherfucker. It's like she has no concept. This is her, right? That's how she draws herself. She didn't think anything of it. That's like, "Oh, baby, that's cute." She's like, And I was like, "Oh, you had never taken that rock to school, right? You gonna mess around and get your ass whooped in kindergarten, right?"
What that does to our recognition of self. We grow suspicion of our own intuition. I listen, Akala sick way raps about racism too.
He said recognition of self, right? You might be asking, what is recognition of self? Self-recognition, it's from another stage of life. When you're, it's like, I guess another way to say it would be your reflective self, right? You become self-conscious of emotions like shame, right? Embarrassment. You can take perspectives. You have emotional knowledge, right? So it's called recognition of self.
We learn to play our position in the system. Look what that does to our recognition of self. We grow suspicion of our own intuition. I listen, Akala sick way raps about racism too much. Could you imagine? this music with no respect for the actual struggle that produced it. This amazing. How many want to claim they love this music with no respect for the actual struggle that produced it? Did hip hop not start in segregated hoods? And them hoods not still segregated? So it's really good.
Last semester I took a class at Northern Illinois University. It was just as an elective, but we're actually studying the origins of hip hop with the it's a Center for Black Studies at Northern Illinois University. It is mind blowing. Just listen to what he said, right? He said, a lot of people talk about hip hop, and I hate this because, I'm researching these very lyrically dense rappers. And recently I was doing Aesop Rock, and a lot of people are arguing that's not rap, that's not hip hop. Boy, if you don't get so, right? It's like, no, that is hip hop. There's different categories, right? There's subgenres, and there's gangster rap, and there's conscious rap, and there's all these variations. So just because it's something that might be intellectual doesn't mean it's intellectual for everyone, right? Just because something's hard to process doesn't mean that it's not rap, because some would argue that something like gangster rap is hard to process if you're not from the hood, right? So there's, Brianna, put that mop back. Put it down. Put it down now. Time out. This isn't the most interesting video I've done thus far. Now my chair is sinking, so I look like what is going on? I swear, it's like, the law of, if something's going to go wrong, it is. I had my daughter was playing with a mop, but it's not just a dry mop. It's there's chemicals on the mop from the last time we mopped. She took it out of some bucket. So I'm going to finish up this video, and then I'm going to go play dollies for a little bit. So my next Aesop Rock song, which is lined up, we might have to wait until later in the day, but I do got headphones now. I couldn't work at night before, but when the little one goes to bed, maybe I'll sneak down and get one of my reviews in. So run it back a little bit.
The First Nation, not still on reservation. And them hoods not still actual struggle that produced it. Did hip hop not start in segregated hoods? And them hoods not still segregated? So it's really good.
Oh yeah, that's what we're saying. So last semester, I took this hip hop class with the Center for Black Studies, and we understood and read about the origins of hip hop. People like Africa Bambaataa, right? DJ Kool Herc, and we started understanding this. So hip hop has a start date, an actual start date. You can pinpoint this, right? It started in the Bronx. So if he's asking, did hip hop not start in segregated hoods? Yes. Are the hoods still not segregated? They're still segregated, but the demographics are different now. Hip hop blew up after that, the big blackout in '97. But you can actually pinpoint August 11th, 1973, there was a birthday party, and it was in this apartment building in the Bronx, in West Bronx, in New York City. And there's an actual address. So if anybody ever asks you, do you know where hip-hop originated? You don't have to just say the Bronx, New York. You could say it was 1520 Sedgwick Avenue, West Bronx, New York City, on August 11th, 1973. There was actually a historic party. It was actually the birthday girl's brother. His name is Clive Campbell. You might recognize that name. He's historic now. He's considered the founding father of hip-hop. His name was DJ Kool Herc, right? But anyway, what's the racial makeup of the Bronx? Well, back then, New York was struggling. They were cutting these social programs, and they had something called white flight, or a version of white flight, where so many black people were moving in, white people started moving out, right? And that also plays a part into taxes and the city not having enough money to operate some of the more basic services. But yeah, the Bronx was predominantly black. Right now, the makeup is it's a little bit different. It's still roughly about half white now. And then the other half is black, with small portions of Asian, Native American, right? But 54% of the population considers themselves having a Hispanic origin. So it's not, it's a little bit different, but yeah, you would say it's still segregated, right? Like Chicago, the makeup is different. but it's still a very segregated city. So I just wanted to highlight that and some history there of hip hop.
The First Nation, not still on reservations where the age of 46 is the average life expectation. And fellas, I wonder where the favelas have been suddenly knocked down and replaced with something better.
Bro, and that's what I mean. Just because Akala and I might be from opposite ends of the world, but there's a common knowledge. There's shared knowledge here and perspective that you can take out. He said a favela, right? That's Portuguese, but a favela is like a slum, a ghetto, if you would. And what did he say? He said, I wonder where the favelas, fellas, I wonder where the favelas they're suddenly knocked down, right? What's going on? Favelas, it's a type of slum in Brazil, but it's been historically just neglected, right? The very first favela, I forget the name of it, but it's actually in the center of Rio de Janeiro, and it's from the late 19th century. It was built by soldiers who had to live under these favela trees, and they had nowhere to live following the Canudos War, right? That's why they call them favelas. It's a little brief history there, but they replaced them with something better. And that happens all around the world, which is exactly what I was saying. Here in Chicago, we're known for obviously having a variety of different projects and buildings like that. One of the more notable project buildings was the Cabrini Green projects. These were just extremely run down, extremely dangerous buildings. And if you know the movie Candyman, that was actually filmed in the Cabrini Green projects. But it was on the border of a very high-end neighborhood called Lincoln Park. It's actually where I went to high school, Lincoln Park. And you would see people that have, they're from both ends of the stick, right? You get some really high-end wealthy families, and you get some very low-end families that were able to call that school their home school. But what happened, the city decided they wanted to do some repairs and infrastructure, blah, blah, blah. And they were going to transform the housing projects. It was going to cost taxpayers $2 billion, right? But more importantly, it was much more expensive than that. The city paid for that, and there was just a variety of unkept promises. But they promised that they were going to give the residents jobs, like demolition jobs and construction jobs. They were saying, there's something called displacement. When an area goes through gentrification, the native residents sometimes get displaced, right? Rents go up, the cost of living goes up too high for that neighborhood, and they can't afford to rent. So these people were guaranteed that they would be able to continue living in this area if they wanted to. And a lot of them didn't want to move. These places were horrible, but this is all they knew, right? And they couldn't really afford to be anywhere else. It's been about a quarter century since that happened, and most of those buildings are gone. And there's $500,000 or $600,000 houses all throughout Lincoln Park. We have an Apple store, right? There's a nice river walk lined with boats and a bunch of mixed income apartments. But the original Cabrini Green tenants could never afford to live there. And then the broken promises, right? They said there would be 2,500 construction jobs that Mayor Daley, who was a mayor at the time, promised to the Cabrini Green residents. 40 people out of 2,500 jobs. Only 40 people actually got one, right? Of the nearly 4,000 homes that were built, only 48 were built by a construction company that was owned by a former Cabrini Green resident. So there was just a lot of things. More than 80% of the people couldn't get back into the neighborhood. One, they couldn't afford it. But guess what happened? When they tried to move back into the area, they had to do a background check. They had to do, a bank check, a credit check. These people aren't going to do that, man. They've been living in Cabrini Green sometimes for generations, right? So there's a lot of issues that happen. A lot of people simply died waiting. Especially the more senior. They had senior buildings here. And, just to show you the corruption, there's people that were like political insiders. Like there's this guy, he's a developer. His name is Dan McLean. I hope he sees this video. Dan McLean actually built Mayor Daley's home in the South Loop. He was one of the custom home builders that worked with him. And who would have thought before this deal ever came into play, Dan McLean made some serious investments. He started buying up all this property that was in the hood, one of the worst hoods in Chicago. Why would he do that? Well, some would say one could create an argument that he had some insider knowledge that this area was rapidly changing, right? So guess what happened? The area changed, and guess who became one of the largest landowners in this very profitable area? Dan McLean, right? So it just shows you a lot of what happens in Chicago, and I'm sure it happens in all places of the world. When Chicago decided they wanted this prime real estate back, they just kicked these people out without anywhere to go. Some people have been living there their whole life. It's just unfortunate, and it just doesn't get the front page of the news. It just doesn't, and it's really unfortunate.
If you got sense, you see fights are joined, and race, class, and gender are sides of the same coin. So if you're really down for justice, whoever the people who suffers, whoever you are, I consider you my sister's brothers. But call it what it is, like Carlin or Bill Hicks. Not these patronized.
Yo, those are both comedians, right? Carlin, I'm sure he's referring to George Carlin, and Bill Hicks, they're comedians.
As in left-wing little twits that ask me dumb shit on a superior tip. I wanna act like cause I read I saw less violence as a kid. Don't make me an exception for your mental protection from accepting the madness in the system where you're left in. That was the clearest thing to come of August events. All the closet bigots started speaking their minds again. So when a Jamaican or Asians misbehaving, of course it's cause of their skin. Blonde hair kills 1 million people, that's just him. And it's entertaining some people.
There's a different way to break that down. It basically means that when you're black, the news and the media treat you as such. If I were to go into a church and just start shooting, right, it's a black man, right, crazy black man goes on a racial crime spree or whatnot. And they'll look through my history and they'll find some picture of me when I was 17 going like this. And they'll say, he's always liked guns. Right, he's had guns around him his entire life. And they try to control the narrative, right? So when you're black and you do something that's bad, all black people are bad, right? But when a white person does it, all of a sudden it's a condition, right? He was suffering from depression. He was a troubled youth. And his mom's going up there talking about his grades in school, and they're showing his picture when he's like 13 and baby face, and he's like, right, and not his actual picture on Twitter where he's holding a gun and all. It's just like, what? Right? And you have to ask yourself, why is that? Why is it that happens? Why is it when if you remember Trayvon Martin, right, when he was shot, go into the store to go get Skittles. Look at the images that they showed you of Trayvon Martin. They didn't show you that he was part of this mentorship program, which was trying to work with NASA, right? He was trying to do things with he was trying to get involved with other projects, and he was going to go buy Skittles, right? This is a child. This is a teenager. Was he a thug? I don't know, right? Did he make some bad decisions? I don't know, but you still don't have the authority to kill him.
So thick, but I prefer that than all of the fake grins, cause it's the only problem, people are so thick, but I prefer that than all of the fake grins, cause it's the only problem.
He's speaking a lot of truth, and I swear I could have wrote this rap myself, as I feel like he's coming from the same place as me. Recently, when the election season, right, with Donald Trump, and the U.S. was up in chaos, and a lot of people were like, they're talking about what they need to do. Like, we need to impeach Donald Trump. We need to get him out of here. And I was telling people, I was like, hey, I don't consider myself a left or right side, right? Democrat or Republican. But if you are a Democrat, you have to know what you're talking about. One, you can't just impeach someone because you don't like what he's saying, right? You have to understand his policies, but there has to be a crime. And you have to be able to define that crime. But also, it's like, yo, Donald Trump, you might not like him, but I guarantee it's much better than having someone in office than like Mike Pence. Why? Because Donald Trump will tell you, I'll grab a bitch by the pussy. What did he say? He said, I could be in Manhattan and I can shoot someone and people would still vote for me. I'd shoot him in Times Square. and they'll still vote for me. And he is probably right at that time. But Donald Trump will always tell you how it is. You might not agree with him, but he's just running his mouth, right? Mike Pence, that's a different story. If you ever read about Mike Pence and his extreme religious beliefs, it's scary as fuck, right? And Mike Pence, he looks the part, right? Beautiful suit, American pin, nice strong fitted suit, short haircut, nice smile. How's it going? Bless your soul. God bless America, right? But it's what he does behind closed doors, the policies he puts in place. So like he's saying, he said it's entertaining. Some people are so thick, but I prefer that to all of the fake grins, right? I'd rather get someone that's real to me and tell me they don't like me and tell me what they're going to do to me and my people than someone that just smiles in my face, but they exercise their power in another way.
People claim they want us so, but don't actually want to talk about how it evolved. You are told this country really yours, sir. What they did to brown people did to their own poor first, and originally in the States, working class whites were also enslaved. Though no one talks about it today. Ever since the master came with the system of privilege, made the working whites the overseers, mulattoes the house, could put the darkest blacks in the field. That mind is with us still. $1 billion industry, skin cream and bleaching pills. And let's be honest, most people are not.
I was just talking about this, right? The small excerpt, and I believe I actually did a breakdown on this. I'm not quite sure. You can look in the playlist. I have one called Powerful Speeches, and we've broken down Malcolm X, Ballad or the Bullet, Martin Luther King Jr., I Have a Dream speech. But this one, it's a little bit different because this was May 5th, the Cinco de Mayo, May 5th, 1962. And again, it was a funeral service for this guy named Ronald Stokes. Like several members of the Nation of Islam were killed in the shootout with the LAPD. The incident actually occurred just before that. It was actually at a mosque that was being monitored by the police department. One day there was this altercation between police and members of the mosque. Basically, the police did what the police do, right? They used their overwhelming force and they killed 7 members of the Nation of Islam. So no whole other conversation, but I believe we mentioned this in this before. Why is it that the Ku Klux Klan has been allowed to survive and thrive, but we eliminated the Black Panther Party? And some of these were shot and eliminated. Some would argue assassinated at the hands of the CIA or the Chicago Police Department. But that's a story for another day because I'm just zipping my tea. I don't know what I'm talking about here, right?
Still, $1 billion industry, skin cream and bleaching pills. And let's be honest, most people in my complexion to this very day still think they're better than the darker section. You say it's
again talking about colorism, right? And that's what I wanted to get at when what Malcolm X says at that funeral, and he comes in and he says, "Who taught you to hate the color of your hair?" Yeezy taught me. No, that's not what he says, but it kind of reminded me of that Kanye West, the skit. Supposedly he bumped into Chris Rock on a plane, and he got him to do this outro when he was breaking up with Amber Rose. And he said, who taught you to dress like that for an idiot? He said, Yeezy taught me. Who told you? I was working parts of Pussy Paradise I had never seen before. Who done taught you to do that? Yeezy taught me, right? No, but back to the music. What Malcolm X says at the speech, he says, who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to the extent that you bleach to get white like the white man, right? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the sole of your feet? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to so much that you don't want to be around each other? Right? When he's talking about, a lot of people said the Nation of Islam was promoting violence, right? And he says, yo, before you come to me saying that Mr. Muhammad preaches and teaches hate, you should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God made you? And it's actually pretty deep. And man, Malcolm X has a delivery that, I didn't even come close to, but such an amazing speech. And just knowing that he's giving it at a funeral and what that represents is sick. But what he's talking about also, he said, let's be honest, right? Most people with the color complexion of my skin, think they're better than the darker section. That's something called colorism, right? Colorism, it's basically you think you're better than someone because of the color of your skin, but it's typically people in the same race as you, right? Black people that they think they're better because they're light skinned, right? Or people that are darker saying little things. Like people will tell me all the time, man, stop acting light skinned, right? Or what do we do? They're talking about Drake is always crying about relationships. I used to say when I was younger and I was on Facebook, I'd be like, don't drink and Drake. Fuck around and start calling your ex and shit with your soft ass, right? So you get a lot of that, even in Mexicans and Chinese people. And it's always, if you're lighter, you're better than, or you weren't. It's just like, it's so crazy, man.
Then only educate me about Wilberforce, not about the Africans in Haiti who beat the armies of the British, Spanish.
Bro, he's saying so much that I can relate to because, again, in the U.S., we're struggling right now with what's called critical race theory, and they're arguing about the curriculum and the public school system. And a lot of people are like, well, we don't want to incorporate slavery because it's going to make the little white kids feel like they should be punished for their hand in something that they didn't really have a hand in, right? Maybe even their parents didn't, or their parents' parents. But it's like, okay, well, yeah, I don't think any child should be called out on anything. But you can't say you don't want this white kid to feel weird. How do you think it feels when we learn about U.S. history and there's nothing about people of color? It's like we just came here one day. I remember history courses where they were basically talking about us migrating to the United States. And I was like, I gotta call bullshit. You know what I mean? And people are like, well, we can't really get into that. But, but on February 1st through February 28th, they're quick to tell you about some Rosa Parks, right? Martin Luther King Jr., the I Have a Dream speech, but they're never teaching you about Selma, right? They're not teaching you about these other players. You know how many people were involved in the civil rights movement, right? How many people were fighting? How many people marched? I mean, it's just crazy. But they'll teach you all about Amerigo Vespucci, right? Who might have even not, is responsible for why they call America America, but he might have just been kind of a con artist, right? And they still respect him. They'll still teach about him. Like they still teach about Christopher Columbus. But they teach you about Christopher Columbus, and it's very different. It's Thanksgiving feast. It's not genocide. It's not rape. It's not murder, right? It's not diseases. It's not, it's just different. And it reminds me of something from Oswin Benjamin. I was reading, and he said, until the lion learns how to write, the book will always be from the perspective of the hunter, right? And that's what we do in the U.S. Everything is a European perspective, right? And it's really hard to learn about who you are as a person of color or a minority because it's just not in our school system. And that's what he's saying, right? He said, you say it's changed, then only educate me about Wilberforce, not about Africans in Haiti, right? So, for those that don't know, Wilberforce, he's talking about William Wilberforce. This was a British politician. He was a philanthropist. He was what was he? He was known for abolishing the slave trade, right? But this is something where, you're going to learn about certain things, but they're still controlling the narrative. They're controlling what you are into, what you can speak on, without necessarily rating you or telling you. They're just not teaching you about other things. And it's worked, right? There's people that are my age that are 39, 40 years old, and they can't tell you about the civil rights movement. They can't tell you about Jim Crow. They can't tell you about bus boycotts. And it's like, how is it that you don't know anything about your own history? And, a lot of it has to do with the public school system.
Napoleon, from the moment they stolen him, there was no controlling him. When I was in school, she said, no, you never fought for freedom. No, we freed you, and you were on your knees pleading. And what's more, did you know that we kind of saved you from the barbarism of Africa? You should be grateful when enough of our own people can't be bothered to read that they actually believed that we were swinging from trees. They didn't know the kingdom of Congo had embassies in Italy 500 years ago. Literally ain't heard of St. Maurice nor Septimus Severus. They ain't studying the past because they think it's irrelevant and attempts to pretend it.
Yeah, see, he's dropping so much knowledge, and it's important that we understand these historical references. And again, I always tell people, you got to remember, this can do so much more than a game, right? If you don't understand somebody that's being referenced in a video, it's so important that we Google them right away and we try to understand, get an idea of who that person is, right? Because he said people, they haven't heard of St. Maurice or Septimus Severus, right? He's talking about black people that were kind of swept under the rug in history. Like St. Maurice, this is a Egyptian military leader, right? Never heard of him, right? You never studied him, that's for sure. If you know about him, it's more than likely from a video like this, or you done went 3 a.m. on YouTube and you're actually seeking that knowledge, right? But the earliest surviving work that shows St. Maurice, he's a dark complected African, and he's from the 12th century, right? And he's in knight's armor, right? This is just so different than what you were taught in school. And when you talk about Septimus Severus, this is the first African emperor. Yeah, I said African emperor, right? And he's supposedly he made the army the biggest institution in the state. They were really the only ones that mattered. He started losing his budget to really make the Roman government huge. So again, a lot of people think the Roman government, they would never have an African emperor. But again, you have to know your history. And, this was a guy that dedicated himself to the law, right? He was very powerful in what he spoke about. And there's a lot of information out there about him. But again, it's really hard to find unless you're like really seeking that info.
Ancient Egyptians were African, nothing more than pseudo-intellectual lies. They obviously ain't read what Aristotle and Herodotus said about people that they saw for their own eyes. And
there's, Aristotle, the philosopher, right? He had a book that he'd play as soon as we're done. Okay. Get the dollies ready.
We're not playing dollies.
Oh, school. Okay.
Been invaded since the fall of the pharaoh.
Okay, hold on, baby daddy's still recording.
Not once, not twice, but many own eyes. And Egypt's been invaded since Dr. when Herodotus said about people that they saw for their own eyes.
Yeah, so what he was referring to here, he's talking about Aristotle in his book, right? He's saying that the Ethiopians and the Egyptians are very black, right? And Herodotus actually adds that he said the ancient Egyptians had black skin and woolly hair. Right, so they're describing what was going on, and a lot of people try to hide that truth.
Egypt's been invaded since the fall of the pharaohs. Not once, not twice, but many, many times. So nobody wants to explain why so many statues are missing noses. Even when them statues made of granite, it ain't one people alone mistaught about themselves. We live.
There's an argument that the statues, right, these great statues all around the world, that the noses are missing because they show that they were black. Right, and these are black leaders in the world, and people are really trying to hide that. Right, so people ask, why is it that so many statues are missing noses? And there's an argument that it's because people were trying to hide that this was an intelligent black people.
From Celtic land, but don't learn about the Celts. The same Irish people you characterize as stupid. You're in the dark ages, some of the most educated living in Europe. And did you learn the numbers you count with every?
That is a lot of good knowledge that he's talking about here. He said, we live on Celtic land, but we don't learn about the Celts, right? The Celts, the same Irish people you characterize as stupid, are some of the most educated living in Europe, right? The world is not how you were taught, right? Especially if you grew up in the 80s or 90s, before the internet age, man, your access to information was extremely limited. Not as much as North Korea or such, but you would argue that there was a lot of propaganda, a lot of things that made you think we were in the best nation in the world, and things were great. And it's a great nation, But there's a lot of issues that people aren't talking about.
Picture in the dark ages, some of the most educated living in Europe. And did you learn the numbers you count with every day was invented by Indian people? I bet you didn't. Or how many million Indians fought for Britain in both world wars? Still you got the cheek to call them immigrants. We don't learn about the Moors, of course. For some that knowledge dangerous. Is it a problem, the impact they had on the Renaissance? When people take power over another group, we minimize their achievements so we can make it feel true. So if you think Columbus was first to sail ocean blue, you probably believe Elvis invented rock and roll too. And for the record of that.
Yo, that's sick, right? Elvis didn't invent rock and roll, but there was actually a lot of people. Now, in Elvis's defense, that they say that he was a student, right? He would like to go to places and listen to music. Some others say that he stole a lot of music from Motown, right, from black artists, and he used that music and passed it off as his own. So a lot of people say, Elvis wasn't just a king, but he was also a thief. But there's different variations of those stories, and I don't know enough to intelligently speak on it. But I heard last semester when I was doing a hip hop class, we discussed Elvis, and the professor was trying to make an argument that supposedly he went to these clubs, he enjoyed the music, he was actually supporting these artists. But he just was influenced by them. But that's not what a lot of the music says. A lot of the music sounds like music from other parts of the world that you never heard of because they weren't mainstream artists. But, it's almost impossible that he had the same kind of influence and created the same song. That's just me, right?
I believe in peace, but not for 1 second, and they'll turn the other cheek. They slap you, slap them back. Take teeth. The only way you bully ever learn is getting beef.
I love what he's saying here. It kind of reminds me of Malcolm X, right? He says, you want peace. We are here for peace, right? You want peace and we will be peaceful. But the minute you lay your hand on us, we want to make sure that you never lay your hand on someone else again, right? There is no turning of the cheek. In fact, Malcolm X used to come down on Martin Luther King Jr. He's like, why are you marching? Right? If you marching, something obviously is not working out for you. We need action, right? We need to do something, and it needs to be something bigger. We need to get the attention, right? But he'd say the same thing. We don't teach you to turn the other cheek here. We teach you to be polite. We teach you to be respectful. But best believe if they put your hands on you, it's got to go down, right? There's going to be some furniture moving around this motherfucker.
Fire with fire, no, fire with water. See, the life-giving force is stronger than the destroyer. That's why these MCs can't speak to me. No, all men are not made equally. My brain's made of iron fiber, conducting the livest wire. My average grade's higher than Oxford and Cambridge require. I don't want credit because I got a message. I want credit because I'm the best MC. Get it? When I came out way back in 04, sister, I just won every award. Most man would have done the bait thing, put big sis on the chorus chords. That would have been A-list draw. Quickly I would have been famous more, but look how I came in this thing raw. Bang off the streets some more. If I MC then I heard me rap, I'll be like, what the? I ain't never gonna be that good, so I better not push my luck. It will embarrass me. Only insanity would make you challenge me. Better hope if we bump heads that day that I feel like charity. If not, it's and there ain't no.
Better hope if we bump heads that day I feel like charity. I might just want you to win because you need your shot too, boo-boo.
Use in search of a meaning, because all it means is that you are crap and I am a genius. Why I'm Panama, I push the perimeter. Can you imagine if I'm sicker than average? I killing with character. Benjamin Banneker, look at the marriage, stamina damage. Went from Botanica, got to look for the whole of the calendar. So cold that I roll in the
Bro, he's so sick now. He's just going off, spazzing out, right? But I like what he said. He said, can you imagine a pharaoh more sicker than average? And then he said, I kill them with character. Benjamin Banneker, right? Banneker, this is someone that, I don't know the year, but this is someone that was going against Jefferson. He said that he was contradicting himself because he owned slaves, right? He still took a part in the act of slavery, while saying all men are created equal, right? Benjamin Banneker, he was also an inventor. If I'm not mistaken, he was the first U.S. clockmaker. And this was a self-educated dude. He knew a lot about astrology and other things, but I believe that he only went to school to like 1st or 2nd grade, and then he was actually self-educated after that, which is just crazy to think of.
Challenger, why you man roll with the amateurs? I'm too much harder. You can just call him Father McCalla, but I don't talk shit like a pastor. You may know that I'm smarter than half a bloody disaster. If I ever start, I'll probably a prodigy make you a martyr. For these crap MCs that mumble, then see me in the flesh and crumble. Never told you that I was humble. No, I'm not. Don't lie. I'm so sure in my writing ability that I feel like I'm finding divinity. Sit down, let me rhyme a soliloquy. My agility.
Oh, he's just going off. He said, "Yo, he's just big boy talk about his rhyme, and he's proving it, right?" But right, he said I'm so sure of my writing ability that I feel like I'm finding divinity. Right? Sit down and rhyme soliloquy. A soliloquy is it's an acting, right? It's a monologue, right? It's so that if somebody's performing by themselves, it's like you can hear their thoughts. They're spoken out loud. It's to let people into the character, right? That makes their thoughts known to the audience. But you wouldn't bring that up unless you're in a play, right? You're acting out different parts, or you're trying to show that you're contemplating or pontificating, right? And you have to. It's like the thought bubble, and then they're able to hear your words.
Time in this military. One singular team for the mini-me. It seems your theme for the mimicry. Your team couldn't dream of the synergy.
Mimicry. Think of mimicking, if you would.
That'll be when I scheme when the wicked beat. There goes again with the big words with best syllables. Get dictionaries out, that's what I'm about. Clowns on the shout. Fresh them, smash them in the mouth. Bloody professor, a man of the letters I read and I'm sure that I'm better. Never regret, cut this quick. Prodigy make you a martyr for these crap MCs that mumble. Then see me in the flesh and crumble. Never told you that I was humble. No, I'm not. Don't lie. I'm so sure in my writing ability that I feel like I'm finding divinity. Sit down, let me rhyme a soliloquy. My agility, time in this military. One singular team for the mini-me. It seems your theme for the mimicry. Your team couldn't dream of the synergy. That'll be when I scheme when the wicked beat. There goes again with the big words with best syllables. Get dictionaries out, that's what I'm about. Clowns on the shout. Fresh them, smash them in the mouth. Bloody professor, a man of the letters I read and I'm sure that I'm better. Never regret an endeavor to dead an oppressor. I think that the lepers, they think that their pleasures are better endeavors than all of our pressures. But see me, born in a rage, maroon blood coursing my veins. As you can see, I was born for the stage, but I'll never be their cultural maid. Some say that we're political.
And I'm hoping you guys are following along. If I see anything that's more complex or play on words, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of wordplay here, but it seems to be pretty easy to correct. He's just he's just snapping out.
Is what they're doing isn't. Don't they preach a political doctrine called materialism? But for all the Italian clothes that you wear, or German cars that you drive, or French champagne that will buy, will still be monkeys in their eyes. So why you were begging it? Who knows? Italians fight to wear Jamaican clothes. Italians call their own women.
Listen to what he's saying, right? He's talking about materialism. He said, for all the Italian clothes that you wear, right? German cars that you buy, like Mercedes or Volkswagen, right? Or French champagne that we buy, will still be just monkeys in their eyes, right? They don't respect us. They're just taking our dollars, right? He said, so why are you begging for it? Who knows? Will Italians ever fight to wear Jamaican clothes? No. But why is it that something that we do?
But everyone's entertainment, bro. But hey, what do I know? I'm just the one with the codes that flows all over the globe. I'm bunning out shows, but still don't oil my chest and pose. Pose a threat to the power structure. Not because we're anything special, but because we're the people together. And that's the only way things change ever.
Oh my gosh.
Sick.
Akala just tore the building to pieces.
Yo, that
I
was
don't
just
know what to
sick.
say. I feel like I just been.
The dude, man, that dude is just, I cannot understand what he's saying with his accent. But I wonder if he's going to drop some new spoken word or another part of his, what did he say? It was a spoken word opera, right? Because there's still some time left. He's got about 5 minutes. I want to hear what he gets into here.
School for a hot minute right there. Saying MCs, you know what? Like, I don't want to hear you.
Yo, that white tee is dingy as hell. I don't know if it's my lighting, but it kind of matches the off-white to the elevator. It looks dingy than a mofo.
Don't call my phone. If you ain't coming to destroy a beat like that.
It's like he had a sweater on and he didn't think he was going to take his sweater off, so he's got this little dingy white tee under. I'm just talking smack.
Don't call my phone or you're going to get a voicemail. Akala. Wow. I don't even know what to say.
That's sick.
Yo, little story. Let's take him down. Yo, listen. Yo.
I know you gonna dig this.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely, but absolute powerlessness does the same. It's not the poverty, it's the inequality we live with every day that will turn us insane. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, but absolute powerlessness does the same.
it's almost like they're letting him showcase some of his new work. Well, at this time, right? This was new at that time.
It's not the poverty, it's the inequality we live with every day. Yo, listen. In a scheme of living, my life wasn't hard, but as far as Britain goes, I practically starved. Sleeping in a tracksuit, gas meter running out, electric cut off as well, candles lighting up the house. Looking in my mother's eyes, I see how she feels. The strain and the pain of just paying bills that ain't real. And that's how I grew, like so many more. And that was part of who I am very sure. You wanna know the rage I feel in my stomach? No, my mom and dad split up when I was still in the stomach. And not everything that happened I will put in 16s, but I will tell you enough so you will know what I mean.
Put in 16 is like a 16 bars, right?
Boy's mother got cancer the same time as mine, but his mother died and mine survived. It was crazy back then. When I was like 10, already had the mental strength more than many grown men. This was a couple years after my stepdad left. Did he really know the crazy mess that he left? Because mum done recover from the lumps in her neck, but being poor and alone couldn't cope with the stress. My big sis fought, so much so, now I hadn't left school. When she left home, I was 13 by now, still a little kid, innocent. Next couple of years though, we'll turn him to a militant. That is the result of no food in the fridge. And every other day you're getting searched by the pigs, plus these patronizing teachers, though. My grade 6, trying to emasculate me, yeah, turn me to a Anna. Don't mean a woman, please let me be clear. I mean a spineless man, because what do they fear? More than a working class brown male with a brain. When our energy is harnessed, everything changed. Look at Pac, look at Marley, look at Hendrix, look at Garvey. This is the potential that is wasted on a daily basis. A racist, classist world that we live in. Still we coming for nothing and we educate millions. I see why it scares you. It's like how dare you overcome obstacles that we have been careful to place in your way every step of the way in this so-called democracy where kids get sprayed, blacks and the Asians, Turks and the Chavs, crowded in council flats, living like ants. And who's more confused than so-called white trash, talking this madness about they want their country back? It never was yours. You should read more. What they did to brown people, they did to their own poor, but people's memory short. So much that I'm seeing black and Asian kids cuss Eastern Europeans. No pot to piss in makes competition. I fail to see how this is an effective system. Dogs in America and Britain eat better food than most of humanity, and we spend our technology only on killing. How is this more than sophisticated savagery? It was once said, the world is a stage, each person just an actor with a part to play, like the middle class kids and kids of the rich that have everything, but yet still they pissed on their coke and ketamine, strung out on. I ain't generalizing, look at the evidence. So go to Glastonbury any year, you will see. But unlike Carnival, it won't be crawling with police. This is London. The kids on the very next street had a very different life experience from me. And in my experience, they can't help but be smug. After a lifetime of what they think's just good luck, but they're still more anxious and more thankless. Unearned privilege weighs like an anchor. That's why they copy what we do, trying to be what they know. They will grow up though and get better jobs and maintain a system that they claim that they hated. They can't fight against, they got a stake in this matrix. Hip-hop is just a fad to them. You didn't know? But for us, this is our living, breathing soul. And yeah, they might back in South America or even volunteer in an African village. But all said and done, when push comes to shove and hits the fan of middle class and British, and I ain't even dissing. That's just how it is. Most rich brown people are just as full of shit. So much more concerned with our cars and jewels than most of the world's poor looks just like you. So much more concerned with being privileged few. And who knows, maybe me too, because absolute power corrupts absolutely, but absolute powerlessness does the same. It's not the poverty, it's the inequality we live with every day that will turn us insane. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, but absolute powerlessness does the same. It's not the poverty, it's the inequality we live with every day that will turn us insane.
Man, this brother is just so cold, man. I thought I'd let it ride. I'm like, maybe he'll drop some of that spoken word stuff. Man, that was just as good. I didn't even want to break it down. And I like that, right? Because he doesn't always need to use these really high-end words, right? Or very dense words or references. Sometimes it's just getting your message out there. And he was just, he was going with it, right? He's riding that beat. But man, I really like this one. I'm glad I went back. Now I got to do part 3, all right? I can't do part 1, part 2, and part 4. Now we got to do 3. Yo, if you're a fan of Akala, you're a fan of intellectual breakdowns, make sure you show some love by not just liking the video, but subscribe to the station. It helps us with our algorithm. Now we're going to continue doing the work, putting the work in so we can help break down these lyrics and we'll get some positive change, or at least a message of positive change out to the world and do our part as well.